You going to the gym? Are you working your ass off and not getting any gains? You want to get some big arms? You want to get arms like these? Then watch this video, and I think your key is you need to get better nutrition, and you'll learn that in this video. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to make homemade egg bites instead of the store-bought and pre-made bullshit, pardon the language. I've eaten all the different brands of pre-made egg bites from Costco, Safeway, all the different stores, and every pre-made one gets me sick. I get the diarrhea, to be honest. Hershey squirts, not pleasant. So it tells me there's ingredients in there that aren't healthy for me, or healthy for me to digest, or easy for me to digest. So what you do with that pre-made Costco stuff and the pre-made Safeway stuff, you take it and you throw it in the trash. And watch this video to know how to make healthy egg bites. Alright, so here we are in the house. Here's the recipe card, which we'll come back to that in a minute. Here's everything we need. We got pot holders, we have baking trays, we have a cheese grater, we have sandwich bags, we have quart style sandwich bags. We have a total of 30 eggs, 24 down below, 6 on top. Got some bacon, got some raw milk, white cheddar, grass-fed cheese, a knife. We have 3 silicone molds for 3 batches of egg bites, some shortening, which you'll see why, platter, measuring cup, mixer, and a bowl. That's all the stuff we need to make egg bites with. But going back to the card, this is the initial egg bite recipe, and this makes 1 batch. I times this by 3 to make the 3 batches. Initially, when I started making these, this is how I made it to the T, and I was getting sick due to the cottage cheese and the pre-made bacon bits and pre-made shredded cheese. So throughout time, I've adjusted the recipe, which I have not made a new card. So as we do the process, I'll explain. So I have my beautiful mother, Christine, helping me today with the egg bite video for demonstration purposes. So I will record as she talks about.
We're going to cut open the bacon packages. And then dump all the bacon onto this plate. And then I just take and cut them in little pieces.
So the reason why we're starting to use this type of bacon, real bacon, and cutting it ourselves is I was buying the pre-made bacon bits from Costco's, and I was having irritability problems with my stomach and digestive issues with the pre-made bacon bits. So the one extra step is doing it the old-fashioned way, buying good clean bacon and just baking it ourselves. And from doing this, it definitely made a taste difference in the egg bites, and also made a huge difference on how I digest the food myself. But as you guys know from previous videos, I'm missing some internal pieces, so I have problems digesting. Got the bacon all diced up. Next step, put it in on top of the stove. So here we are at the oven. We got the bacon. Mom's going to dump the bacon into the skillet. It's all diced up. And remember, the important part of this step here is to cook the bacon to desired tenderness, but cook it lighter. And what I mean by lighter is we are going to recook the bacon in a future step by baking it in the oven in the egg bite shape. So unless you want burnt bacon or extra crispy bacon, I always recommend cook this light, and then you'll see in the future steps why. So while this is baking or boiling, we're going to go shred some cheese and get prepped with the next step. So here's the type of cheese I use: raw milk, white cheddar, grass-fed, organic, super clean ingredients. Actually, let me turn it sideways so you could read the ingredients. It says raw, organic, whole milk, sea salt, cultures, vegetarian enzymes. I'm going to have my mom open this real quick, and we're going to start shredding it. Alright, so it's open. Now it's time to shred, and we will shred this whole entire block. And while she's shredding, I'm going to go over and stir the bacon. Now here we are stirring bacon. Normally I could just fluff the pan, but being that I'm one-handed trying to film, I don't want to make a mess. I will say, best smell of everything I make, always the bacon. Makes everything smell so delicious. She's almost done grating that cheese already. And if you need a nice cheese grater, this thing is amazing. It's got a bottom, so once you get done, you'll see in just a second, she opens it up and it just catches all the mess. One of the best graters we found to date. Now we got the 3 silicone pans out, got the Crisco out. Mom got a little bit of napkin and I'm gonna get some Crisco on it and explain why.
We're gonna Crisco inside the cup, because if you don't, when they're done cooking and you flip the pan upside down, the egg will not stick to the pans. I have used metal cupcake pans for a long time, and I find when I use the metal ones, you lose a bunch of the egg, then you have to scour your pans, and then you lose your finish on your pans. But always lose a little Crisco. Even a little extra wouldn't hurt. That way they're not gonna stick.
So yeah, here's pan number 2. We'll do this over with all 3 pans and I'll pan back.
See it, you see it better on
There was no pun intended with that last joke. That I'll pan back to the pans. Back to the bacon to flip some more bacon or stir more bacon. And then actually, this is getting pretty close to done for my likings, being how this gets baked again in another step. All 3 pans lubed up. Crisco's put away. Time for the eggs. So between that batch and these is a total of 30 eggs. And we have 10 here, and that is because this is batch 1. We're going to crack these, put the eggs in here, put the shells over there. I have a little bit of OCD, so I put a paper towel down so I don't make a mess. So Mom, I'm going to have her crack some eggs into the bowl. And while she's doing the eggs into the bowl, I'm going to go kill the bacon. Because to me, this is good enough for the bacon. Just turned it off. I'll stir it one last time. But like I said, I cook it light because it's going to get rebaked in the oven in a little bit. And I don't want super crispy bacon in my egg bites. So it's done. Bacon's good enough for now. Turn it off the skillet. And we'll come back to that in the next step. This is egg number 10. Mom's going to grab it and crack it. And then what's the next step after that, Mom?
I'm going to grab the beaters and I'm going to beat them on medium. So that way I get everything cooked, beated really good.
So what's the point of beating it?
The point of beating it is that way that your yolks are well blended, because they do string. If you don't well blend it, when you scoop it into your pan, it's going to be like a string of yolk or a string of white. So you want to blend it very, very well with a mixer.
Good explanation. And as she is mixing, I'm going to get rid of eggs. That's old shells. The next step is we're going to put bacon into 3 piles, and we're going to separate cheese into 3 piles. And the reason for that is because we are doing 3 different batches of egg bites. And so each equal pile is for each batch. So the bacon is in 3 equal piles. Now it is process time for the cheese. We'll get this cheese into 3 piles and we'll be right back. We got the cheese now into 3 piles. None of these piles are measured. If you want to be OCD and measure them to make them equal, be my guest. We're just using our eyeballs as best judgment. Now the step is to turn the oven on to 350. Once this gets preheated, we'll put stuff in. Step now is to take the eggs that we mix together and pour them into the silicone mold. This is the 10 eggs. This is batch 1, and the goal is to fill them equally, about 3/4 full. Then this is what the little scooper ladle thing's for, to not make a mess or make it a little bit easier. And the reason why we only go 3/4 full is because we have ingredients to add to this, and when we add ingredients, it'll go from 3/4 full to basically full.
Sometimes at the end, you'll end up with less than one than the others. So then what you do, this is what I do, is I will scoop some out of another cup to fill a cup.
So we're 1 shy, so we're just gonna mimic by pulling all the fuller ones out, like she said, to make an even batch. And this is all trial and error. This is a custom made recipe. If you followed off the card, I found that card information on a carnivore recipe group online. But I don't use the cottage cheese anymore because it was getting me sicker than heck. Which is why I've modified the recipe to my restrictions of what makes me feel good. But now we have all even trays. Now it's time to add the bacon and the cheese into the cups or the molds. So each pile is for each batch. So pile of cheese gets spread evenly out through all 12 cups in this batch. When we get to the bacon, you'll see we'll repeat the same exact process. Now before we add bacon, I'll show you that we have a fair amount of even cheese throughout. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now it's time for the bacon to do the same thing. We're going to make the bacon throughout each cup. Try to make it equal. I will state also, when I was doing it with cottage cheese, it definitely had a different texture and a different taste than it does with just the bacon and cheese. But with that being said, to me, it's not so much about taste, it's about how it makes me feel and the feel. So we have eliminated the cottage cheese, and instead we added 1 extra egg to the recipe to make up for the cottage cheese being missing. And we added a little bit of bacon extra. So speaking of the bacon, I don't know if I said it earlier in the video or even showed it in the picture, that bacon that was on this tray is 1.25 pounds to do all 3 batches. At the oven, it's still preheating. Batch 1 is ready to go into the stove as soon as the preheat's done. And as we're waiting for preheat, Mom's over here getting ready to accommodate and fill up batch number 2. So we got to start with the eggs again. We're going to put 10 eggs into that mixer. We're going to mix the 10 eggs up like we did in previous steps, and then we're going to pour the 10 eggs into here, and then we're going to add the bacon and the cheese like we did in previous steps, add it all together, and then repeat the process with this one. Just got the next 10 eggs in here. It's time to blend, and as she's blending, I'll come over here and throw the eggs again away, or the egg shells. Got my empty egg shells. into the garbage.
You always want to make sure you mix your egg whites and yolks really good, even to a little bubble, because farm fresh eggs hold their texture, and you want to beat them really, really good before you put them in the pan.
And again, this is for batch number 2, which is right here. We're going to repeat the process like we did earlier with batch 1. And make even ladles all the way through. We used to do this one batch at a time, and I eat 2 egg bites a day, and we were getting really tired of doing this all the time. So through trial and error, I've realized that if we make 3 batches in one day, it lasts me basically all month long. It's like 20 days this lasts me out of the 30. So I make this every 20 days or so. It's super nutrient dense. You know, bacon and eggs are one of the most healthiest things for you possible. My cholesterol actually got quite a bit better and improved by having more eggs and more bacon. And what's even cooler about all this stuff, not only from a cancer standpoint, that I've been stable for the last year, and I've actually had success shrinking some tumors in the last 2 years. But no more seizures, no more fibrillation, no more strokes and many heart attacks. And that's all because my cholesterol levels have improved and gotten better by adding more healthy fats to my diet. So now it's time to add cheese to the trays again, like we did with previous steps for batch number 1.
If you ever do this with duck eggs, you'll have to do it with trial and error about the quantity because of the size difference. You probably don't want to do it with quail eggs because you'd have to use too many quail eggs.
But speaking about different eggs, of course, as you guys should know or are learning, different eggs have different health nutrients. So, for example, a chicken egg is roughly 70 calories, where a duck egg is 170 calories. And of course, they both have a difference in protein and fats as well. Which another cheat, as I'm talking about it, is I'm now 22 months into carnivore. Come September will be 2 solid years. So I'm 21 months, 22. Either way, with eating the same meals over and over again on a daily basis, if that meal gets boring, I just change species of eggs. Like one day it'll be a chicken egg, one day it'll be a duck egg, and one day will be a quail egg. And it just, each time you do that, changes the meal flavor aggressively. I love it. Here we are back at the oven. The preheat light went off. It is ready to go in. We have batch number 1, batch number 2. It is going to go in the oven in just a second. It's going to go in for 20 to 22 minutes. And before we shove it in, my mom's going to explain the process of 20 to 22 minutes and how to check it.
At the 20 minute mark, you want to use a toothpick and poke the center of a couple of the egg bites to see if it's done, like you would a cake or a cupcake, to see if your centers are done.
So basically, if you stick that toothpick into the center of that thing and there's a residue of any type stuck to that, it needs to go a little bit longer.
Yep.
So I'll get out of the way. Oven's on. It's hot.
Always use a metal tray under these silicone. I don't trust silicone on an oven rack.
So timer's on for 20 minutes. And then we'll check it at the 20-minute mark. While that's counting down, we'll head over back to the counter and we'll work on batch number 3. So we're going to take the final 10 eggs, which is right here, and we're going to crack them into the bowl, mix them up again, and add ingredients. This is batch number 3, the final batch. And this will last me 20 days with all 3 of these batches. And for those of you that have been carnivore or new to carnivore, or even if you're on a different style of diet and you're just trying to do better with health and better with life and better with food, I will say a game changer to get a healthier relationship with food and get more serious with it is getting in the habit of doing meal prep. And I consider this meal prep. Got all 10 correct. I'm going to dispose of the shells again.
Oh, and hand me that other.
So now it's time to get rid of the last batch of shells. Voila. Now it's time to mix the last batch up.
As I'm mixing, you can see the yolks want to hold their shape. That's why you want to beat them really good to break them down.
And again, I use farm fresh eggs 99% of the time. If the only time I buy store-bought eggs from Costco's or Walmart or any place like that is if I can't find farm fresh, which I'm sure you guys have learned different eggs have different nutritional values depending on how that chicken's been brought up and raised and what it's been fed. I found that out the hard way by eating eggs and being sick all the time. I'm like, oh, I have an egg allergy. I don't have an egg allergy. I'm just eating shitty eggs that were from bad sources. We're done with mixing batch number 3. It is time to ladle all these into the cups again. Remember, about 3/4 full, little bit past half full.
And I use a 1/2 cup measurer, and I go a little bit under. See, just like that.
Seems to get pretty accurate. Like I said, we're pretty experienced with doing this. I've been eating the same shit for, well, I've been eating the same exact stuff since September of 2023 till now. And I've been able to really fine-tune all the meals and how it makes me feel and the nutrient value from everything. Here's batch number 3. We're all ladled out. Everything's pretty even. Now it's time to add the cheese and then the bacon into each mold. And speaking of the cheese, how I just explained chicken eggs being different nutrient densities and nutritional values depending on how the chicken's raised, I have realized as well with cheese, different cheese have different health priorities or digestible abilities. So this grass-fed white cheddar cheese, non-processed or non-pasteurized, is the only cheese I've been able to find that I could eat without having irritabilities or diarrhea or like a glucose response or phlegm for that matter. Back when I used to have trashy dairy, like processed dairy, pasteurized dairy, I had really bad phlegm consistently, lung butter, snot coming out my nose, and once I went to healthy cheese, no more. But yeah, same thing with bacon even. Different bacon has different values. It's pretty amazing the differences in foods and what it can and can't do to your health. I am so grateful, thankful, and blessed for coming across the proper human diet, which to me is called carnivore. It has prolonged my life. It has saved my life. It has added so much value to my life. It's given me the ability to help think better, feel better. There's endless amounts of the benefits of getting on a style of eating. We got a metal pan. We got some culinary parchment paper. And what are we doing, Mom?
We're going to take a sheet and put it on the cookie sheet so that way when I flip the egg bites upside down, they stick to the parchment paper and not the pan. I've learned that from mistakes.
Next, we're going to talk about a little example of a learning curve or a mistake not to make. And so, Mom, I'll pan back to you in a second. Let's hear this example on the mistake we've learned the hard way.
Okay, somebody wanted some help on doing egg bites, but they decided they were going to take like the bacon, the cheese, the onion, the cottage cheese, celery, anything they wanted to add, they put on the bottom of the muffin tin. And then what they did is they cracked the egg on top of all those ingredients. So what happened when it came out of the oven and it cooled down, the egg itself was like a hard, rubbery, poached type egg. None of the egg went down below to the bottom of the pan. So when you dumped the pan, the egg was on one side, and then on the other side was all the contents. So you don't want to do that. You always want to mix your eggs, put them in your tins, then do your cheese, your bacon, your cottage cheese, whatever you want to put in there.
So the biggest point of what she is stating is mix your eggs with the blender, mix it well, because if you're lazy and you just throw it in whole, you're going to ruin your meal, ruin your money, and have to throw everything away.
That's
It's the final countdown. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, now we're going to do the toothpick test at the 20-minute mark. I've never had to go beyond.
Look how big these things got.
They'll shrink.
I know, but I love watching them inflate. So yes, you stabbed the toothpick.
You just need to stab a couple. Yep,
Then we'll see the toothpick, that it's clean, there's no residue. So that means it's done. Batch 1 on the counter. I'm going to let this cool down for a little bit. Mom already pulled the metal tray out from underneath it. Here comes batch number 2. Look how good these things look. They smell good. My goodness. And while those are cooling down, we're taking the third batch. And we're going to put the third batch in the oven for 20 minutes.
And this one you can just put in sideways, since it's the only thing in the pan. We didn't do it with the other two because the two used up the whole oven. 20 minutes.
Nice. So this will be back in 20 minutes to test it with the toothpick. Tell that these ones are deflating, and my mom wants to just explain something real quick about it.
I noticed when we're using like Costco pre-done bacon, they turn out like this. With regular good bacon, they're fluffy like this, like a quiche fluff. And it's much better.
Even from a taste standpoint, when I was making this with pre-made ingredients like the Costco's bacon and the pre-processed shredded cheese and the cottage cheese, it didn't taste as good to me. Like I said, I was getting sick afterwards, so I fine-tuned through time to use good healthy eggs, good bacon, no cottage cheese. It's amazing the differences on how I feel using good ingredients and eating for nutrition versus eating for flavor. About 10 minutes since we pulled them out of the oven, it's cooled down a little bit. You can tell they've shrunken to the normal size. Now it's time to flip them out.
You go over this cookie sheet and the parchment paper and they come right out.
Voila. So that's the point of using the silicone molds. They come out, and in a second I will pan over to the mold to show you there's no residue stuck to them, and that's exactly why we used this parchment paper like previously explained, so when these are cooling down they don't stick to the paper. So here we are back to the silicone mold, and you could see there's no residue stuck inside each mold. So that's why the Crisco is important, and that's why the silicone mold is important, because when we were using metal molds, even with Crisco, it was making a hell of a mess, and I was having a layer of food stuck to the side, which was wasting money and product and food. Now we're ready for flip number 2 with pan number 2.
You gotta let them cool down for half an hour.
Half an hour.
half an hour. Otherwise, it'll melt the baggies. You don't want to melt your baggies. Okay, now that we got 2 batches on the parchment paper on the cookie sheet, and we're waiting for the 3rd batch to get out, I got some cheesecloth. This is a lifesaver, and I put it over the eggs to protect it from like bugs, gnats, flies, and then it actually helps them cool down a little bit too.
Helps them cool down evenly as well.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the final countdown. So we come over here with the toothpick again. I'll get out of the way. Madre could open up the door. We'll do a toothpick check.
Why not?
Is it sticky on the residue? Let me see. So we did the toothpick test. We had to turn the timer back on for another 2 minutes because, as you can see, if the phone will focus, there's a residue on the toothpick. So it needs to go longer. This is test number 2, coming up with the toothpick. We put them in for an extra 2 minutes. So this is 22 minutes in versus 20 minutes in. Some are done, some aren't, because the toothpick has residue again. So we're going to go for another 2 minutes. This is test number 3 with the toothpick coming up. And we actually spun the tray around too. Don't know if it makes a difference. The only thing we could think of why this batch is taking longer than the other 2 batches is because this is a different style silicone mold than the other 2 we used.
Yeah, they're done.
Looks like they're done to me. We'll pull them out and flip them. All right.
We'll let this cool for 10 minutes before we flip them upside down on the cookie sheet.
Since we pulled them out of the oven, this is batch number 3. It's time to flip the batch number 3 to put them with the rest and let them continue cooling down. Getting them all organized, and we'll come back in a little bit once they're completely cool and bag them, and we'll show you that process. From learning experiences, we're going to talk about these little things. They're called cupcake liners. They go inside the trays, and we're going to explain why we don't use them anymore.
I did it a couple times for Anthony, and he found that when he peels the paper off the egg bite, he loses most of the egg on the paper.
Which is the same thing we were happening by using just a metal tray. Even with Crisco, we were losing egg and materials, and so that's why we went to the silicone molds. Here we have the quart bags. Here we have sandwich baggies, and now it is time to unravel our egg bites and bag them. Now it's time to bag these. Mom is taking 2 egg bites per sandwich baggie, like so. And then get 2 egg bites per sandwich baggie, again like so. And what she'll do is she will holding the bags up, getting much air out as possible. So when we add these 2 baggies, the sandwich baggies, to the quart baggie like so, it stacks better. We got them all bagged up. Let's go put them in the freezer. Now, so here we got the bags. I'll grab a few of them at a time. Into the freezer. Yes. Sorry about the dirty kitchen table. I need to clean it. We'll get there. And the last one. So there's my egg bites. There's my butter bites. Back there's all my deer. There's my bone broth. I got some spare bones and bacon. Some beef patties. So what I do is I grab one of these every few days and I put it in my fridge like so, and then I just thaw them out as I need them, because eggs don't last cooked very long.